Yeah, he did earlier.
Go ahead, flip it again.
Can it go on? Is it on off? There it is. Okay, we're good. Welcome to the Nagog Hill Orchard Working Group meeting. It's October 9th. We have a quorum. I will declare the meeting in session at 7:30. First order of business is minutes from the last meeting, which I sent around. If anyone has any corrections or alterations?
I appreciate you writing them. I make a motion to submit them as written.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. Thank you. Okay, so the first thing on the agenda is discussion of the additional info request to RFP respondents, which I sent out on Monday. All three of the respondents got back to me. One of them was yesterday and two of them were today. So I forwarded all three of those responses to all three of you.
Okay.
Maybe I sent it to the wrong email. I'm sorry, Sarah, if I sent it to
When did that go?
that one out this afternoon. I sent it to SAC@gmail.
Oh, okay. Apologize, I didn't
No worries.
see that. Okay.
I don't know if there's any topic, like I guess we could discuss the responses, but if we haven't had time to review them, as a couple of them only came in an hour or two ago. It's good that we have them, but I don't know if we can debate on the merits of the responses one way or the other tonight.
Well, yeah, I got them at 6:22, and
Yeah.
I just finished up another meeting, so I don't.
Okay, okay.
But I appreciate that they're here. I'm happy to go through each person and their answers in order to keep the ball rolling. I don't know if I'm the only one that didn't have a chance to read it.
Well, like, I guess to what end are we gonna go through them? Are we going to include them in the discuss how we're gonna include these responses in the criteria?
I guess my thought was that was why we had sent out the additional questions, to be able to validate responses more accurately.
Yeah. So I guess, maybe we should talk about them in relation to the criteria for evaluation.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. And we can just take them one by one, if that's helpful.
Or we could do one question at a time. So for
As long as you
example,
can toggle back and forth, I can on my phone.
instead of talking about specifics, if we say, some of them are easy. The lease time frame, for example.
Okay.
Like, one of them was 5 to 10, one of them was 10 to 20, and the third one was as long as possible, I believe.
So did you receive verification from town council if we're able to discuss if it's going to be applicant ABC, or if we title each applicant and what their response was?
Say that again.
At the last meeting, we had a discussion because what was going to be, if anything was going to be redacted or not. So when we speak tonight about applicants 1, 2, and 3, can we name them and go through their responses?
I did not ask town council that. I didn't realize that was one of the I must have misunderstood that was what I was supposed to ask. So I apologize for that.
Okay, that was in the minutes as well, so I didn't.
I didn't ask either because I don't know whether, I guess I also didn't understand that we were gonna do that for this week. So,
And just as a point of clarity, so we can just go ABC or?
yeah,
Okay.
or 1, 2, 3.
Sure.
I did ask town council if we could do a lease to own arrangement, and the answer is no.
Okay.
We cannot do that. Because we don't have, since we do not currently have the option to sell it, we cannot put the lease to own with an option to sell it in the future, since we do not currently have the ability to sell it.
Well, the select board, of point of reference, does have the authority under surplus property. It's just not what they're doing.
Right.
So, just so those people that are listening understand that.
So basically, what you were asking was, as we're negotiating the lease, can we include terms to sell it?
Or right of first refusals and things like that, and
And
the answer was no.
Unless we get permission from the town, or we declare
Unless
it,
you-
unless we declare it
unless-
surplus.
Exactly.
Okay,
Right.
okay. So I guess what I was thinking is, if we say the lease terms are, one is 10 to 20, one is 5 to 10, and one is as short as possible, we don't have to identify the respondents, we can say, like, this is how we want to evaluate those criteria, right? And so let's start with that, like, I think the town would probably prefer a longer lease rather than a shorter one.
I think it depends on, well, for me personally, I think it depends on that it's a good match. I've always been a proponent of rolling leases, that you take the first 10 years and then go to another 10 if everything's going well, instead of locking in to 30. I'm not opposed to a long-term lease, especially when someone needs to make the blood, sweat, and tear investment into the land, so.
And I agree on a good fit, but of course, like, this whole thing, like, we have to take these, I think we have to take these criteria in a vacuum, right, to some extent, because otherwise, it's all dependent on it being a good fit. So, like, I guess I'm saying, is the length of the lease gonna influence the,
Scoring.
what's that?
Does the length of
Does
the
it,
lease?
does it influence the scoring? Yeah, that's
Right.
good, that's, so.
Well, thoughts?
Yes, I think if somebody's looking for 20 to 30, and that's, we're still navigating whether the fit and the productivity, the actions that they take, I think that could be a little bit tricky at this point. Especially if they're looking for a 20 to 30 year lease and they want all the trees removed first. That's the town's putting a lot of resources up front, and I don't think the rolling lease idea is a bad idea to get, somebody to get their foot in the door and get going.
So it sounds like you're saying the length has no impact on the scoring. Like, we're gonna start with a short lease.
Meaning a minimum of 10. Like, for me, I
We can do
10 is,
5. We could do 5, but do you mean like a minimum of 10?
for me, I do. I don't think anyone would really want to invest in 5 years.
I think that would be tricky.
Okay.
Yeah, to do a short, very short
That's
term.
like,
You mean,
get to know
if
them.
you were, from the town's perspective, you don't want to do less than a 10, or do you think as a lessee, you wouldn't do less than 10?
As a lessee, I think if someone wants to buy into a partnership with the town, you'd need a minimum of 10 years just to get your feet on the ground. And then the questions that we asked of the applicants was 0 to 10, 10 to 20, 20 to 30.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So we're gonna say like 10 years as a minimum, but beyond that, we don't see that someone wanting it for 30 years as necessarily a positive. We're gonna be rolling it, we're gonna be evaluating that. Okay. The next one is which parcels. One of them was the entire property.
Mhm.
One of them had a smaller subset. I think it was about 35 acres of APR out of the 50. And one of them was almost all of them, but fields 3, 4, 5, 6, and 8. So I think that's just about all of them. I'm looking for that.
I would say 3/4, yeah.
Okay, so it sounds like 2 of them are about 3/4 and one of them is the entire property.
Yeah.
So, what's your opinion on, does leasing some subset of it make it more or less attractive to the town?
if they're not taking, if they're taking the subset, does that leave the select board open to negotiating with one of the other respondents?
We could, yeah, we could lease to multiple people if we wanted to.
Where's 8? Oh.
Mark, your thoughts?
So I don't know that I mean, as long as anyone is farming at least what we require from the MDR, I think the minimum is we have to have the least meeting MDR's requirement.
50%.
Right. So if it's, as long as it's 50%, we got the MDR, and then if we had to negotiate with someone else for the rest, I mean, it's not necessarily a great deal, but it's not, we're out from the bind we're under, right?
So my question on that, so say for round numbers, you have 100 acres, and they're gonna lease 50. The way we presented it is that of the APR land, of whatever you lease, 50% of that has to be active. So does that mean 25 of the 50? So
Correct.
say you're leasing only half. We would then not be meeting the threshold for
Right.
MDR.
Correct.
So
Well, unless they are leasing half and they're.
They would
they're
actively have to
actively
be
using every
doing-
single bit of it,
Right.
of their half. But yes,
Right.
that's correct. So,
Okay. So I just wanted to be clear on
My,
that.
my assumption is we're leasing to someone that will meet the total MDR requirements, right? If they're not meeting the total MDR, whatever the MDR is 25 acres, let's just call it. If they're not gonna meet the 25, then that's less favorable, because we have to find
We're not
someone.
meeting- But then we're not meeting the criteria for the other land that's in ag.
So, yes, we're not currently, right?
So
But
what if we don't find someone to be a tenant on the other land, then we're not meeting our,
no, if we're doing, so the state only cares about it in toto. So if the lessee is using 25 acres, we have satisfied it for the entire property. We have satisfied MDR for the entire property,
that would be
So-
true unless we broke up the APR.
which we're not doing.
So you could have a leasing and sublet the remaining land. You've got the 25 acres covered that satisfies MDR. You're not breaking up the APR, but you're allowing a sublease on the.
Or just a secondary lease.
but what I'm saying is, what if you don't have that person, do you meet the MDR threshold?
Yeah. If you're doing 25, someone is doing 25 acres.
Which person?
So if you have all of it, so 87 acres, and then you have to have half of that,
No, it's 50 acres is the APR. So 25 has to be in agriculture. It has to be in production, excuse me. Out of the 87 acres, 50 is,
I thought it was 49 something.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
49 and
49
change.
something.
We're rounding up.
But
so there's 50 APR acres, which means 25 has to be in production. Any way we get to 25, the state will be satisfied. Anything that we don't lease, however, the town is on the hook for maintenance, whether it's mowing, invasive control, or whatever, you know, or blight, or,
right?
you know, or structures that are rotting away. Like, so, to my mind, the more someone takes, the more someone's willing to take on, in my opinion, the more advantageous they would be. But from reading these, all three of them are going to satisfy the 50% criteria. Okay, so we're pretty
So-
good with that?
Yeah, so on the same vein, what about the structures, right? We
Right.
didn't actually include, well, the house is completely excluded, but we didn't actually include the lower barn and cottage in the RFP as something that we were necessarily advertising for lease. But if they're interested in that, does that up their score?
Well, so that, and that's the third question that was asked. So
Yeah,
length of time, APR land, the next question that was asked that we're coming to is structures.
yep.
And
Which
the way that
structures are you
And the way that
interested in?
that question was posed, are you, in and this was to the three applicants, are you interested in leasing any/all of, and it lists the structures. And relative to the structures, what investments would you require the town, and in what time frame to work on investments?
So one of the applicants, top barn, farm stand, lower barn and cottage. One of the applicants, all the structures. And the third one is, excuse me for 1 second, bouncing around here. Main barn, garage, and cottage. So basically, all three of them want the barn, the cottage, and one of them doesn't want I don't know what garage is, now that I read
That's
this.
the garage is the lower barn.
Okay, so all three of them want everything, all three of them want all the structures as part of the lease. So that's a wash, and that's good, in my opinion.
Yep.
The investment question, however, one of the applicants called out specifically substantial investment in renovating all of the structures. One of the applicants was, basically, we need to make it work as a farm, and that's all. And one of them basically said, please remove the debris, and we will use it with whatever minor stuff you can do. They also, that applicant also was interested in the house as a separate deal. So in that respect, I think the differences between the two are covered by our questions about the town investment.
Yeah. So I think they're all almost fairly creative equal.
Yeah. And then the last one was tours, retail sales, volunteering opportunities. One of them has some public interaction as part of their mission. One of them has a lot of public interaction as part of its mission. And the third one is more closely a working farm, and I think less public interaction. Apart from, what does it say? Tours, perhaps, workshops, school field trips, volunteers. I don't know how people feel about adding that to the weight as well. What do you think?
I'm fine with it being a working farm. I don't think tours are necessary.
Okay.
Um,
So all these questions, like, there's not a ton of impact on the scoring.
No, but I think it was helpful.
It was a useful exercise, okay. So I think, the next item is like evaluating these.
That's fine.
And
I think all three wanted fairly substantial investments in the field work.
that's correct. Yeah. So how are we going to evaluate them? Are we all going to go to our corners and write up scores for each of them? Submit them and discuss them at the next meeting? Are we interested in having them come in to speak to us?
I also think it can also be a different process where you kind of see who everyone's top two are based on the review.
Mm-hmm.
So that way you've narrowed it down.
And would you think come back next time and with all of our scores and discuss them in detail once we've had a chance to really go through all the applications and rate them?
I think going through the applications on our own and ranking them on the 4 criteria and overall, I mean, we can start by what Sarah said and say, these are my top 2, right? And if everyone agrees, then we can, on who the top 2 are, then we can immediately drop the 3rd.
Okay.
Or we can go through and say, I had A at, 40 points for management, and Sarah had it for 10, and we can sit there and debate about who, see how the numbers work out.
I do think that kind of debate is useful. I think that if we do have differences in numbers, that's probably a very valuable thing to discuss as a group. Do you have any opinion, Will?
Yeah, I think it's probably good to rank them ourselves, come back and discuss.
Okay. So if that's the case, we can do that, we can come back next Tuesday, I'll post the meeting,
Next Tuesday.
yeah, or.
Yeah, it was Tuesday because someone couldn't do
We
Wednesday.
couldn't do Wednesday next week, the 16th was out.
Okay, I definitely, I can,
Can you not do Tuesday?
I'm driving into the hurricane tomorrow, so
Ooh.
I will let you know what it looks like. I do not anticipate internet. So
So, when will you be back?
my flight, I thought we were meeting on Wednesday, so my flight back was on Wednesday.
Okay, so we can discuss, how about at the end of the meeting, let's schedule another meeting. Let's schedule the next one, like when
So
we.
you all, so we're not on for next Wednesday.
So we are not, we discussed meeting on the 15th, is what I took away from the minutes. So I thought that was the next meeting.
Okay, I apologize, yeah, no, I've had that.
Okay,
I'm not available on the 23rd, as far as I know, the 16th was fine. For me, I don't know who,
That's Matthew and I. Let me see what time.
I thought you all were doing Shaker Lane on Tuesday.
yeah, I think there was something.
It's scheduled from 7 to 9 on the,
I thought your Shaker Lane was Tuesday.
no, it's Wednesday.
Oh,
It's
gosh.
October.
Yeah, that is what it was. We have a meeting with the Shaker Lane Committee and we
Well, it's
can't.
not ideal for me to do Zoom, but I would say still try and have the meeting on the 15th.
Yeah, but I really want you to be able to participate easily in that discussion, and I think if you don't have internet or your internet is spotty, that's not,
I can't
yeah,
come
okay.
in. I would
that's
say
fine.
let's post it, and if I'll know definitely by Monday. I mean, I'll know Saturday, but I'll know
I mean,
Monday.
I could do the Thursday.
Yeah,
that's easier.
I can also do the Thursday, the 17th.
Oh, well, can you do Thursday?
yeah, I guess.
All right, so
Okay.
that's better, so let's do that. So I'll post for Thursday. We'll all come back in. You're shaking your head.
No, I'm just,
Okay.
a lot of dates.
So I'll post for Thursday. We'll all come back with our scorecards,
Okay.
and we'll go through the respondents. And I will follow up with town council
I
on
can do that.
identification. Oh, you want to do that?
I'll do that.
Okay,
I've
that'd be
been
great.
talking to town council about it
Okay.
anyway, so
Okay.
that was my bad.
No, so I'm trying to follow through. So in order to be fair to the applicants as well, tonight, are we trying to narrow it down to 2, or we're going to do that all? And then what is the end game of the next meeting, to then narrow it down to 2 and have the next 2, the final 2 come in for a visit the following week?
But don't believe we can do that. We have to ask them, if we're interviewing them, we have to interview all the respondents and treat them exactly the same.
Okay.
If we decide to move forward with one, we open their bid letter and we start negotiations with the one and only one. That's that's the 40B or 30B process. So I think the end game of next meeting would be settle on one.
Okay.
And I
Yeah,
think
I just want to be clear on the
Yeah.
process.
And I think what we decided is when we discussed it at the select board meeting, there was some discussion about whether we should open that bid letter since this is an advisory group to the select board, we should tell them, this is the one we picked, and then once it's agreed upon by the select board, then the letter would be open, this group doesn't really have any say on the financial side.
So what happens, we put forth a name, and the select board decides on another name?
We strangle
That
the
is
other
that-
members.
that is that
That's not, in
I
my
don't think,
opinion,
I don't think
not an
that's,
option.
I don't think that will be an option, but I think the options will be that the select board decides to abandon the lease or pick who we recommend.
Yes. Because we also have the option of saying none of these are fully qualified, in our opinion, and we're not gonna move forward with any of them. We're not obligated to pick one.
And then what's the process after that?
So at that point, probably Mark and I and town council will begin discussions with the representative from the lessee and then start negotiating a lease.
If we pick one, if we all agree that we pick one, then we will start negotiating a lease. And we will be setting a date by which we will have a lease or
I
not.
think what I expressed is that, what if this committee does not feel comfortable with any of the 3? what is the process after that?
I think then I think we are engaged with MAPC.
Okay.
And in my opinion, we go back to town meeting and ask to sell it, just
I
declare
just wanted-
surplus and sell it.
So I
Yeah.
like the broader understanding.
I mean, I think that's what we should do, because I think this group identified that as a superior choice.
So just so that everybody knows what the options are, we either come up with a final one or settle for moving forward in a different direction.
Yeah, or we recommend none.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. That's it for the agenda.
You-
Yeah. Sure, let's have public comment.
Do you want over there?
I think, yeah, it'd be nice to let people at home hear you.
Rob Brown's 25 Juniper Road, it's possible it's out on the website somewhere. Is the public able to see any of the, data? You can certainly remove blackout, whatever is the confidential stuff that you feel can't be shared in public, but is there any information available to the public? I'm trying to, as you know, keep in touch with this. It's borderline impossible, and I'm not faulting any of you. I'm just trying to find out if there's a way so that somebody that's interested can even have half a prayer, because as much as you're doing what you should be doing and laying out how you're going to score and prioritize, et cetera, it's just that one person, if in some cases your questions, everybody was equal, that's easy. But if it's not, then as trying to be in the audience and observe what's taking place.
Sure.
So I'll take that one. The answer right now is no.
It's
but
not available.
It's not available yet. I mean, I will ask town council what we can do to release these, or what portions we can release as part of the questions of what we are identifying.
I appreciate that.
So, you could FOIA them right now, but then they're gonna have to be redacted and all that, so
I'm not
we'll try
trying to be
and.
adversarial.
Sure.
I'm not suggesting that either, it's just, we were told not to release them, because there could be confidential stuff in there, so we just haven't worked through the process of what we can, so I will work on that.
I respect that.
And that's how we started the meeting, just to clarify that, but we're going to ask council on
That was my mistake,
Yeah,
so.
so very helpful to know.
And because also it's a lot easier for us to talk about them by name instead of alluding to them. So we would prefer to be more open with like the discussions of who the applicants are and what their strengths are. So hopefully we'll be able to do that at the next meeting.
That'd be great.
Okay.
And so consistent with how you deal with many of your committees and select board, et cetera, the packet available that goes out with the agenda 2 days before, if you determine from town council you're allowed to do something, that would be helpful to have it as available so that the public can be read in as much as we can prior to your convening and doing the work.
So we don't normally assemble a packet for this meeting, but we can add it to the website. If it's allowed, I can do that on my own.
Yeah, that would be very, very helpful, because
Understood.
otherwise it's very difficult
Sure.
with regard to the volume and considerations you're
Okay.
doing. So thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, thank you.
Any other comments from the public? Yeah.
Don McIver, 43 Foster Street, and like the previous person, I don't find fault with anyone. I think you all have good intent and have good judgment, but it's been very confusing following this. Some time ago you put a request to fill vacancies on the committee, and some people talked directly to people. I know at least 2 were approached, and that had been done 2 months ago, and heard absolutely nothing. I know from attending this quite a bit, I have pressed a way of notifying people when the next meetings are. At that time, the town website did not have a notify me aspect, and the previous chair would contact one individual in the public It was up to them to notify other people. And sometimes they'd catch stuff in a timely manner, sometimes they would not. Could you put this meeting on the notify me section? I mean, there's ongoing meetings, there's an interest in it. It's very hard following it. I know personally, I think it was August 14th, it was advertised for a meeting. I had to drive an hour here, and there was no meeting. Then I had to drive back an hour. Then I noticed that the automatic listing of meetings every 2 weeks was stopped, and I was very thankful of that. But then I was surprised all of a sudden meetings were happening again. And the way I knew about this meeting was actually from the town administrator's October newsletter. Yeah, there's a better way to do that. Other towns do have a list that people are interested in repeating meetings to actually notify. It'd be very helpful if you do that. We have that capability, and it's up there, but no one seems to be too inspired to use it.
I think, yes, I agree, we could add it. I think that in all likelihood, the next meeting of this group will be the last meeting of this group, because once we recommend to the select board, I think that the charge of this group is done. And that's one of the reasons that we haven't pursued expanding it back up to 7 people. So I think that's one of the reasons why, like, I did not pursue like notifications, but immediately after we had that last conversation, I remember us talking about this. We lost the town vote, and then this whole group was moribund for a couple months.
So is there an opportunity for the next meeting to put a notification out?
I don't know if that's part of the, I mean,
We can talk to Nancy. Nancy controls that, I think.
So I think it's a
Nancy
great idea
feature.
if we could at least pursue and see if we
Like an
can,
email?
at least for that next one.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you've perceived quite a bit along the way, and that's what I've
Yep.
caught on to, which is why I'm raising this, because a lot of people put an effort trying to follow it, trying to attend the meetings, and if you remember correctly from the town meeting where the vote was voted down, there was an interest in having a public session where the neighbors and public interest would come in and express their interest in what happens to the land.
Right.
That happens in a lot of towns. Certainly at one point, when this committee, before they had a number of resignations, had recommended that be done. One approach was through MAPC, which...
Well, and we are doing that.
Yep.
We are pursuing MAPC. We're actually, Mark and I are meeting with them tomorrow.
But usually what happens is people express an interest, what they like to see done with it, and that becomes the criteria. It seems like you put out an RFP, which I understand.
So I want to separate the sale from the lease. MAPC is engaged with us on the sale, and we are engaging the public in terms of what they want to see out of it, what they are interested in for a purchaser, and also for us to provide information to the people who attend those about why and how we're selling the property. This lease is a one-off sort of request from the select board that we did. We tried to get the MAPC involved, and we simply didn't have time. They had no bandwidth for it. And speaking personally, I didn't have bandwidth to like run public meetings for information sessions, you know, in the couple months that we've had between town meeting and where we're at now.
But there were other people that had been identified, including by this committee, as being capable of doing that same type of session. And in particular, Keith Ross was one of those people, very talented. In fact, Sarah had provided the resume, and he's done this before. So there was a capability. I mean, usually there's a progression, project management. You figure out what you're going to do. You usually have a sequence of things off on a timeline. You engage the public. You get the findings from them. You establish the criteria, you have the process in place, and it seems like, if anything, this is almost backwards.
So I'll take some of those. So I worked on the RFP for the lease. I took the RFP for the lease that we did last time around and took out a lot of the requirements that would be in Orchard. If we were to go through the process you're saying, and we fail, we wouldn't be at the state we're at now. We'd still be in those meetings. We'd be putting out an RFP probably in maybe in December timeframe, be doing lease negotiations in March, which means that if and everything fell through, we have no time to go back to sell until the fall town meeting. We're trying to make this process, I agree with you, it would have been nice to have all of that information up front. There's not time when you're working between May and October dates, basically, and have month-long processes going on to do all of that. I agree with you, it would have been nice to get more information to potentially how we would qualify the potential lessees, whether it was a hayfield versus an orchard type thing and what people want. But there isn't enough time in the process to get all that information. And in reality, all the lessees want to basically all do the same thing anyway. So I don't think the delay would have actually helped.
Well, what it does do is shuts out the public, and that's unfortunate. And it had been mentioned as a good example, when the planning board did that, the commuting 3A district, people were very upset, and then they stepped back and decided whether partial, impartial.
Okay, I want to stop on this. We're going to continue on the process that we're on. We're going to evaluate the 3 RFPs. I understand your concerns about the public being involved, but we're at where we're at based on a whole bunch of stuff that's happened, and we're not going to change course right now.
Can I offer 2 insights that might help clarify? So just as a note of interest with the minutes that were approved previously, on April 18th, the working group agreed to organize community meetings to discuss and finalize RFP criteria. The group recognized the importance of addressing public concerns and ensuring transparency. A proposal was made to engage MAPC to facilitate public input sessions. Matthew Nordhaus will follow up with the town administrator to discuss these steps. So it was in the works, and then my understanding is that MAPC, either through lack of funding, that we weren't able to go through with that. And then one thing in terms of I should have brought up as additional administrative discussions this evening was that the chair had reached out, or whoever's chair or not chair, reached out to the 3 former members to see if they wanted to come back, meaning Brad, Jen, and Amy, and their response was,
No, thank you.
So, just for clarification though, when that RFP there was an RFP for sale in that timeframe, not an RFP for lease.
but also that we had reached out, so in prior, that we had made a commitment even prior to that with our select board meeting, that we were going to do outreach.
Right.
And then
as well.
we lost the vote and it did get delayed, and then we talked about it and decided to move forward again. So that's where we're at right now.
Right, well, I
Okay.
recognize you have it all decided what you're going to do for a recommendation. What I'm saying is it's sort of frustrating. If in fact you get to the point where you don't feel comfortable with any of the applicants, it would be worthwhile to go to the public.
So,
In general.
so what I'm saying is, we are already in the process of setting that up with MAPC.
Okay.
Okay, that's already
It's not
happening.
the only group that has that capability.
Okay, but we are doing it with the MAPC. We've signed a contract with them. They are going to facilitate the public outreach and the information sessions.
Okay, and it sounds like maybe after the recommendation's made and after there's a vote as to leasing for, whatever number of years.
So if the lease doesn't go through, if we decide not to lease to any of these 3, or we can't negotiate a lease, we will then proceed with the public input sessions and another warrant article to declare the property surplus and sell it.
Yeah,
With another RFP, with public input on what the criteria are for evaluating the respondents to that RFP.
And we recognize we would lose a whole nother year.
and the warrant article should be sort of the end stage.
Yes, that's exactly right. Yeah, that's what we're doing.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
I've cited my frustrations. I know other people have been frustrated. I know neighbors in the area have been frustrated. And some cases they don't want to speak out, but not very happy. And they say, well, we'll listen
Well,
to the
they
selectmen.
should be here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, we're not mean, we don't bite, and
No,
we're
I'm not
like-
accusing
they-
you.
No, I know we're not,
Next week.
but they should, if they feel unhappy, that we need to hear that. Like, we can't, we're not mind readers, and we can't understand.
But it is a good point, I think, to get the next meeting posted through the e-notification, if it's feasible at this late.
Yeah, we can ask Nancy to send out an email.
See what she does.
Yeah.
Yep,
Okay,
Okay,
no,
perfect.
that's-
Yep, no, that's helpful,
Okay.
Don. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Yeah, who's next? Either one of you.
You can go first. Hi, Kristen Kazokis, Littleton, Mass. I just wanted to say that part of the process that we were talking about with the transparency was also about the select board. So when you guys go to the select board, I don't know what type of meeting that's going to be.
It's
set
gonna
up
be in a
at.
regular select board, open select board meeting.
Regular, okay.
Yeah, we're gonna present like our findings to the select board. It's gonna be debated in an open meeting, just like any other item
That's
on
not
the
a
agenda.
debate with us, we're just giving, I don't even think we have to go in front of the select.
Well, I
board. We're
mean,
just
when I say
giving-
we, I mean Mark and I, given them, we sort of have
So
to be at
this,
that.
my understanding is this committee is going to come up with something, and then that's just delivered. It's
Okay.
not,
And
it's
then-
not up for debate with us.
Correct.
So our
And then-
job,
Yeah,
in theory, potentially, doubtful, will be done.
and we
In a week.
will debate it as a board, as a select board, and Mark and I can answer questions or provide context from this group to the select board if there are other questions when the select board is debating it.
Okay. Can that be signified on the agenda?
It will be on the agenda that
Well,
way.
that has, yeah, that has
That,
to be.
that you guys
Oh,
are making that presentation?
absolutely,
Okay,
yep.
so
That'll
that-
be on the select board agenda, absolutely.
Okay,
That
all
has
right.
to be very transparent.
All right, and can we not change the time on that so people can?
No, he's the chair, blame him.
We'll try and keep to the times on the agenda.
That would be
Yes.
wonderful, thank you.
It usually is later than the stated time, not earlier. Okay,
That's good.
we'll make sure it's not earlier, how about that?
That would be appreciated.
There's nothing we can do about some conversations that go for an hour and a half about things.
Yeah, but it would be a shame if folks missed it because they went to the time and it was brought up before.
No, we won't do that.
Okay.
I'll make sure we won't do that.
Matthew will make sure everything's
We're not supposed
delayed
to
so
do
that
that.
doesn't happen.
That should not happen.
So I also just wanted to follow up with Mr. McIver's concerns with the public input, but public is welcome to write letters and
Mhm.
correspondence to the select board.
Absolutely.
And to this address, which is on the webpage for
Mhm.
the.
And come to the next meeting.
And come to the next meeting. So there are opportunities if folks aren't happy or if they're not comfortable coming to the meeting, avenues for folks to actually participate.
And if you email select board at Littleton, Mass, or you go to the website and you post a comment to the select board, like Mr. Duggan forwards every single one of those to the entire board. We read everything that we get.
Oh, wonderful.
So it's absolutely not just circular filed somewhere, like we,
And it's helpful to do that prior to the meeting,
Yeah.
so not the day of,
Yeah.
because some of us don't
Yeah.
check our email on the way to the meeting,
Right,
so,
okay.
okay.
All right, thank you so much.
thank you.
Hello,
I'm Sandra Santoro. I live at 46A Nagog Road. I was just seeking clarification on one point. So the committee's going to go back and rank my proposals between now and the next meeting. Will you be doing that based on the entire proposal or just the answers to the?
Oh, no, the entire thing, absolutely the entire
Okay,
thing.
Oh,
thank you.
Yes. Yeah, no, that's the whole point of this. It's the whole thing.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay.
The thing and the questions.
Yeah, the questions will help. I mean, it turns out, I think the questions helped us, but they didn't really, I don't think there's much there to differentiate the three applicants from what I read. They're either they're all the same or the differences are not something that's going to, I think, sway the group one way or another.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just an additional question. Yeah, we're seeing if you can release who's applied. Can you at least generically describe the three applicants? Such as private agriculture, production, management versus nonprofit.
There's one nonprofit, there's one private farmer, and there's one who, I don't know how to say without giving it away, It's a,
I would say it would be, I would say two nonprofits
Yeah,
and
two-
one
yeah.
for-profit.
yeah.
Yes.
Well, one of them is an agricultural nonprofit, and one of them is not an agricultural nonprofit.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
helpful.
Okay. All right, so that's all for tonight. I will take a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn the meeting October 9th at 8:15 PM.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Good night.